Alright, today our project is going to be to replace the dog bone, or they call it the pit arm, on the rear of your BMW. And these go bad after a while. And if you notice, the ones that I have here has been replaced, so that way you can get an idea of where they belong. And here's the old ones. As you notice, they've been worn pretty bad and probably haven't been changed since I bought the car. So let's see what kind of tools that we need to do this. You're going to need a 22mm wrench, a torque wrench, a breaker bar, a 22mm impact socket, as well as a 17mm impact socket to take your wheels off, safety goggles, and a pair of gloves. Here's some optional things. If you have an impact wrench, it makes your job a lot easier, a wire brush, and also some brake and caliper grease. And of course, we're going to need these items as well. To jack up the rear of your car, you don't want to put the jack on a differential, but there's this cross beam right in front of it, and that's where you put your jacks on. The first thing we're going to do is get these bolts lined up, and we're going to do that by jacking up the trailing arm. When you jack up the trailing arm, you'll notice that there'll be a gap, so you might want to adjust your jack stand. Grab your 22mm socket and your breaker bar and just crack it open. Just make it loose. You don't want to take it off yet. If you have one of these impact wrenches, it makes your life so much easier. Just crack it open. To get the second bolt off, you need a 22mm wrench, and there's a nut on the other side. You just hold it down and you just unscrew this. There's a nut on the other side of the dog bone. You just want to get your 22mm wrench and just place it over it. Once you make sure that all the screws are parallel, you want to start to unscrew it. There's going to be a washer here, and there's a washer on top. And just remove the screws. So here's the old dog bone. You notice it's all cracked. There's no stiffness and it moves around. And here's the new one. So what I like to do is just make sure that they are precise. They're basically the same thing. And we're just going to replace it. But before I do that, you notice that the inner bolt is kind of all rusted up. So I'm going to clean that up with a little bit of WD-40. Once that's cleaned up, I'm going to put a light coat of brake caliper grease just on the shaft. To reinstall, I'm going to put the bolt in first, so that way I don't cross-thread anything. And don't forget the washer. That's not good. Grab your second nut, and you're going to have to kind of wiggle it around. You notice how it shifts? And if you're still having difficulty, lift up your trailing arm. Okay, the washer goes on top, and then the screw. Now that they're on, I'm going to just tighten it up. And don't forget, you need to hold the nut on the other side. So just make sure they're snug. We're going to torque it later. The difference between the passenger and the driver's side is that the passenger side has this beam over here. But it's not too much of a problem. All you have to do is just make sure that the screw aligns perfectly up. And the same thing, just lift this portion up here to align it perpendicular, and it should go in. Before I put the rim back on, I'm just going to clean this up and put a little caliper grease on here. So that way, when I take off the tire next time, it'll be a lot easier. That's what I'm using. Just put a light coat. Final inspection, just want to make sure that your brakes are in good shape. Looks like the pads are good. And you want to also check your boots. Make sure there's no cracks in them. And everything's good, you just put on the wheel. Since I haven't rotated my tires for a while, I decided to rotate them. I also cleaned up the inside because I figure I'm never going to do it anyway. We're going to tighten down the bolt, and I'll torque it once the car is down. So you want to torque these down to 94 foot-pound, and you want to do it once you put the wheels on and it's on the ground. Final step is just to torque down these lug nuts to 90 foot-pound. And don't forget to take your car for a test drive to make sure that everything is fine. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.